Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Barry Beckham, and as you can see here, we're going to talk about the halo problem whenever we make a cutout. If you've watched the earlier video that I created called Making a Composite, you'll recognize the two layers I have on the right hand side and the image we can see on screen. So what I've done here is to go back to stage 2 of the manipulation we made in that making a composite, because this one, especially when I zoom in over here, clearly shows a problem we're going to have to deal with. It's called the halo effect. It's caused when we cut out a subject from a background, and in this case at the top end of the wing there, obviously the blue part of the sky. But when we place it over a background of a different color, then we can see the halo. Now, the way I dealt with this problem in the previous video was to add the layer mask to the image. Then I locked the image to preserve the transparent nature of the cutout, and I flooded the entire thing with black, and that effectively covers up the problem of the halo. But if we wanted to produce the image in color and retain the green grass, or maybe even a colored sky in the background, we may not be able to do that. So let's backtrack just a little bit and deal solely with that halo. What I'm going to do is to just select my background and drop it in the bin, because I'm going to go and get a colored sky to place behind my Angel of the North. Now, in fact, this sky image is much the same as the black and white one. It was taken at the same time and at the same location. I've just worked this through Camera Raw as a color image. So I can backtrack just a little bit, drag my angel from the top of the screen, and using the Move tool I can click, drag and drop one into the other, and I can close this one down because I don't need it anymore. And once again I can drag my angel down into position. Now, I do have the problem to deal with again down at the bottom left, but that's going to be pretty simple. The problem we need to deal with is the one we can see here. If I click and drag, we can clearly see the halo around the wing of the Angel of the North. Now, there's a number of ways we can deal with this, but one of the most effective appears in the select and mask options. Normally we can expect to see select and mask along the top of the screen if we have a selection made and a selection tool selected from the toolbox. We haven't got either of those at the moment, but if I go to my layer mask here and double click, we're instantly into our select and mask options, and we're looking at the image placed against black. We have a number of ways we can do this. We have onion skin, marching ants, we have the overlay, on black, which I think is most effective for what we're doing here. When I go to on white, then of course we hardly can see the halo. Even though it's blue, it's not showing up anywhere near as bad as we can see on a dark background. We can see it as pure black and white, and we can also see it on layers. This helps just as much, I suppose, because it shows the wing of the angel against the actual sky that we're going to be using it against. So what I'd like to do here is to go down to the bottom of Select and Mask, and we have a little box that says Decontaminate Colors. I'm going to check that, and if you were looking at the wing of my Angel of the North, as I untick it again, you can see just how effective this is. In fact, what I'll do is just zoom in a little more, I think. I'll tick the box. Look at that. That is pretty clever. Now, I get a number of options in the output here. I may as well output this to a new layer with a layer mask. So I'll click OK to do that. Yes, we get a duplicate, but this is the one we're really interested in at the moment. I'll hit Control 0 because straight away we've got a different style of picture altogether here. So I think at this stage I would be dropping that original layer and mask maybe in the bin, and I'll save my new composite with a slightly different name than before. Now of course, if I put my critical hat on just for a moment, I would say that the light source here is pretty subdued and way over on the right if it's visible at all, and yet here I have a strong shadow both on the statue and on the lads, which indicate that the light is somewhere behind the statue, which in fact originally it was. But I think we can deal with the shadow here and the shadow on the lads in exactly the same way as we dealt with that little gap on the left hand side. Just make a careful selection, copy and paste, and I think we'll have this done. Of course, to do that I would be applying my layer mask, so select that, right click, and I'm going to apply the layer mask. Then I can turn my attention to any copy and paste I'd like to do. So with just a little bit of cut and paste, exactly the same way as we dealt with that gap on the left hand side, it's not too difficult to cover up the shadow of the Angel of the North and the two lads walking up the hill, and we are left with an image without a hint of the halo up at the top left, where the wing of the angel is against the darkest part of the sky. Of course, save your work and try a number of different backgrounds and skies just to make sure you've got a really good result. If we look up at the top left of the screen to the tab for this image, you'll see that I'm up to stage 5 of this particular manipulation. So I've got 5 different versions that I can go back to at any time. Now of course there's no problem with any amount of versions that we save. The one thing that I would have left to do maybe was to crop this image. If I pick up my crop tool and click into the picture, I've already got my base now just about how I want it, so any of the crop would have to come from the top. Now I don't think if I crop the image that's going to be a great problem. But sometimes when we do that we can lose a piece of the sky that perhaps we want. Perhaps the sky is dark at the top and that darkening at the top is helping the image, so why would we want to cut it off? Well, given the work we're doing, there is one other option. Let me back away from the crop for a moment, go back to my move tool. I'm going to go to my layers on the other side and I'm going to select my sky. I'm going to then travel all the way back to Edit Free Transform, and what I'm going to do is bring the sky down. I'm actually distorting the sky, but that is going to form my crop in a moment. But what I'm doing here is retaining all of the sky that I want. When I'm happy, I can hit the tick on the options bar, then I can go back to my crop, drag that down to that sort of point, hit the tick on the options bar. Eventually of course I would want to flatten these to finally finish the image. So now we can take a look at our second version of the Angel of the North in colour, full screen. And that little dot which was on the top edge of the angel's left wing did start to bother me, so I simply removed it with a touch of the brush with black. I hope you've enjoyed the video and also the suggestions I've made within it, but you have reached the end, so I must assume that you did. Well, in that case, can I invite you along to my photo forum? Come along to the address you can see on screen. You can sign up free of charge with just your email address and a password. You can get access to me and many other people who share your interests.